What is going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Zach's Vlogs. My name is Zach, and today I have my uncle with me.
What do I say?
You can just say anything, basically. But what I would really like to hear from you is, well, I don't really have a topic for my videos. I mainly just do random things, but I think you should talk about life before World War II, during World War II, and after World War II, and then maybe some your time, like, because you spent time in the Navy, so I'd like to...
Air Force.
Air Force. So that's what I would like to hear, and the reason why I'm putting this on YouTube, and you're okay with that, is to just like have it up there so people can hear your story. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Alright. So first tell me about life before World War II, and then talk about life during World War II, and then talk about life after World War II, and then talk about what you did in the Navy.
Air Force.
Air Force.
Okay.
Talk about what you did in the Air
Well,
Force.
I was a normal teenager. I grew up in Renton. My parents. I went to a parochial school for 8 years. Then I transferred to a public school, and I graduated in 1952. And I told my dad, my parents, I'm not going to college because I want to go in the. I was going to get drafted, so I want to go in the Air Force. So I went down to First Avenue and Second Avenue and found out that I was going to get drafted, like I said, and I didn't want the Navy because I usually, I was swimming around Green Lake or swimming in Cedar River in Renton. So I tried the Coast Guard.
And where was this? Washington?
This is in Renton, Washington.
Ah, cool. Continue.
So I went to the Coast Guard and I showed them. I told them I'd be drafted in September, and they said, "Well, I'd like to take you all, but there's 440 persons ahead of you, so I'm sure the Air Force would take you. Did you pass your test? Yes. Did you take your physical? I passed it." So I took my records over to the Air Force, and they took me. So they told me to be here at, let's see, 7:30, quarter to 8. So when I was...
The Air Force told you to be at that spot?
Yes.
Alright.
So I took, I think I went by train. I went by train to the Air Force training base at Pleasanton, California, which is right over the Oakland Bay Bridge, I understand. So I took 8 weeks of basic training where you'd go to class every day, and then you would...
Moving around here, trying to get the perfect spot.
And then when you left there, you would, we had like night marches. We had classes to go through every morning after we come from chow, which is breakfast. And then I was told I was going to be an operator. I took some tests and be a radar op. They sent me to F.E. Warren Air Force Base in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And when I finished there, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I decided, well, I don't want to go to Texas. It's too hot there. So I figured I wanted to go to overseas. So they said, okay. So outside the barracks, they had this Bible, and they said, this is a UCMG, Universal Code of Military Justice. And you raise your hand, and you recite after me. If you go AWOL, they'll come and get you. That means the AP, Air Force Police, the MPs, military police, and the Navy. Shore Patrol. So you're going to get a 30-day vacation, 30-day leave. So once you finish your 30 days, you have to report to Camp Kilburn, New Jersey. So I figured, well, okay, I have a 30-day leave, and they cut the order for me, just like your printer and a printer, I hear.
Yeah.
So what I did, I said, Dad, I have to leave because I have to go from Renton, Washington, clear up to New Jersey. That's right across the whole, 3,000 miles? So I think I left the 15th or 20th, I can't remember.
Now this was before World War II, right? Or...
This was not before, after World War II.
Ah.
See, I was in Korean War era.
Well, you can talk a little bit about that first, and then
Yeah.
go on talk about what life was like before, during, and after. All right. Just
so
continue on with what.
Yeah, I go to Camp Kilburn, New Jersey, and then we stayed there for 10 days, and then what we had to do, I think they gave us different jobs. You had to shovel coal, I guess, or fire up the stove. I call them, like on trains. Jobs, because you're just a casual there. You haven't got your orders. So we finally got our orders, and we shipped to overseas to Bremerhaven, Germany. That's where the port of embarkation is, where you dock. And then they took me on a bus, I guess, and they took me to this Air Force station in France. So I stayed there for about, I think it was 2 years or 2.5 years, So I had quite a bit of time left. So what I did after I left there, I was assigned to, I went to Korea for 13 months. Then after Korea, I came back to the United States, and I only had 6 months left of my 4-year term. So I went to what they call Fairchild Air Force Base, which was a SAC base, Strategic Air Command, and then I was assigned there for 6 months. Then I got extended.
No, I'm gonna move the
I got extended for a month.
camera over here because I think it's low on battery.
Low in battery?
I don't know. I can't. Oh well, I'll just
Is it low on battery? Or do you have to put it back?
No, it's got 100 minutes on it, so it's good. Just keep talking.
So after that, I was assigned, I wanted McCord Air Force Base to Tacoma, but I didn't get it. So I went there and I got paid, and they told me that you're going to a SAC Air Force Base in your last 6 months in the Air Force, which is considered heavy bombers. First there was a B-47 there, and then they dismantled the D-47. They brought in the B-52s, which is the heavy bombers, which carried nuclear bombs. And you would have exercises, when you have alerts, you go up in the sky, and in case Russia came down from the last and attacked us, and our director was Curtis E. LeMay. He was the head of the whole SAC all across the United States. They had SAC bases in Montana, North Dakota, Fairchild Air Force Base in Spokane. And then they brought me in after my 6 months was over in Fairchild. They brought me in and said, well, you're going to re-enlist, and you're going to receive $700 a month to re-enlist for another 4 years. So I said no. I was undecided. So they put me in this one place, and you're going to do this. for the rest of if you re-enlist for 4 more years. And I said, well, I've decided I don't want to re-enlist. And they said, well, you're gonna lose all your 4 stripes, your NCO, a staff sergeant. So what I did, I took a train into Seattle. Then from Seattle, I took a bus to Renton, where my parents lived. And I decided within 90 days, I was thinking. Then I said, no, I don't want to re-enlist for $700 a month and get 3% a year. And I thought it was too low of a pay. So I decided no. At the end of my 4-year reserve time, that's you spend 4 years in active duty, and you've spent 4 years in active duty or non-active duty in the reserve. So that's 8 years of your enlistment. So I decided no, I wanted to get out of the Air Force, and I loved the Air Force, but I decided the pay was too low, not enough.
Alright, so,
So I went down to the VA, I fooled around and my parents, and I said, Dad, I'm gonna go to the VA and take some tests. So they gave me some tests, and they said, you be good in business or accounting. So I took the test, and I went to a junior college, Central, in Broadway East. I guess it's close, I can't remember, Broadway anyway. I graduated there with what they call a business manager or a public accountant. And I took accounting, auditing, business law, penmanship and writing. So I left there, and I can't remember where I had a job. I think it was City Light, as just an accounting clerk, starting as an accounting clerk. And that was only part-time for 4 or 5 months. And so I left there and I went to another junior college in North Seattle. And I took up, I think I took up business again. And I decided, well, I want to go out on my own.
and this was before the Korean War, right?
This was after the Korean War.
Oh, okay, so
See, I was out of the Air Force. I went to the Veterans Administration.
alright, so now that we're after the Korean War, we're gonna go back further to the point before World War II, during World War II, and after World War II. So talk about what life was like before World War II.
Well, as a normal teenager, World War II was just like any other teenager. A small town, and you have a job. Like I said, after high school, I had a job in a meat market, and like we go home. I'd go home and work and go. I think it was just part time, Fridays and Saturdays, and
Just so you know, he wasn't a soldier in World War II. He was a soldier in the Korean War.
Korean War. Yeah, I was a basic. What do they call it? Private in the Air Force.
So continue what you were saying.
Oh, I'm into the what do you call it? My teenage before the pre World War II. So I went home, and where we didn't have anything to do Sunday, and they turned on the radio, and we had they call a breakfast nook, like
Get some Coke here.
breakfast table. So I turned on the knob in the radio, and they said Pearl Harbor had been attacked. So I was 13 or 14, and President Roosevelt came on, and he said, we have been attacked by a vicious enemy, the Japanese, and then Congress declared war on the Japanese for the bombing of Pearl Harbor. So Roosevelt said, we are now at war with the imperial country of Japan. And then after that, I was still too young. I was 13 or 14, and I was still too young to go into the war. So I guess I stayed around and just stayed around my parents' home until I got 17 or 18. And then after I graduated from high school, I got this letter to say that I was drafted. So I went down to First Avenue and decided I have to pick a service, so I I didn't pick the Navy because I was always swimming on Cedar River or in a lake. So I went down to the Coast Guard and I said, well, I'd like to enlist in the Coast Guard. And they said, what's your draft notice? And I said, it's September of '52. So they said, did you pass your physical? Yes. Did you take your test? Yes. They said, we'd like to take you all, but you'll never get in by September '52 because there's 440 persons ahead of you.
Hang on.
So
now you were talking about after World War II, right? Or what?
this is during this was after World War II. Yeah, after World War II.
So you talked about before World War II.
I'm talking to the sergeant in the Coast Guard, and he says, well, I'm sure the Air Force would take you.
Hold on.
So I went in, they took my grades, my tests, and I passed the physical to him. And he says, well, over here, we have an Air Force recruiting, and I'm sure they'll take it. And that's when they took me. So that's when I went into the...
So, you weren't a soldier you weren't a soldier during World War II, but you lived through the World War II.
I lived through the World War II era. I told that before when you went out. I put it into your blog.
And you told me, and you told them what life was like, right?
Yeah.
All right. And you told them after, right?
Yeah. So I told you I took all the tests
This is
after I got out of the Air Force.
After you got out of the Air Force. So this is way after World War II. All right. I'm interested to hear that myself. Continue.
Yep. So like I said, I worked at City Life. I was a county clerk for only 4 months or 6 months, so I didn't like that. So I decided to go and get a public accounting certificate, or business manager they call it, with accounting, business law 1 and 2, oceanography, what else did I do? Penmanship and writing. I think I took, I took philosophy, I took psychology, and what's the other 3 you took? I can't remember the other 2 subjects. But anyway, I graduated with it. And then I applied for, went down to Boeing and worked for Boeing as a parts clerk.
Weren't they the ones who manufactured the planes during World War II?
Yeah, I worked for Boeing, and we had the first plane they put out was the 707, the commercial, the first airliner. And then after that, I was working in Renton, but they told me there aren't any more jobs in what you were doing. I was a methods analysis. So if you want to go to Everett, so I was transferred to Everett on the premier production of the B-40, the B-47, B-47. So I worked on that. I was an expediter at the time. You know, you carry parts from where they make them to, and you put them in storage. So, say the guy installs electrical wire or something, or wiring. Okay, you put it. You just take it and you give it to a storekeeper. Then after that, I worked in tool and production planning for a while, which my job was to plan the cargo doors.
For the planes?
Yeah, for where you put your baggage in, for the planes.
Oh, so these are commercial airliners?
Yeah, these commercial, they couldn't, not
warplanes?
Not military, no. And so one time, there was a recession, and Boeing was laying off. So we'd come out, and I'd go to work, let's see, at 7 o'clock in the morning at Everett, which was, I don't know, 5-6 miles from Green Lake.
Hey, Uncle Walt, would you like some water or what?
No, I'm okay. I just had a cold.
All right.
So we had carpets, and we had to go to our desk. No, you couldn't. We had a big a vending machine with carpets, and it was beautiful. And you take your coffee or cocoa or pop to your desk. So I came in one morning, and I noticed a lot of the desks were empty. So I figured, well, a recession, you know, that's a downsizing employment. Because I didn't know that Boeing was getting less and less orders, see. So when you get less and less orders, and you know, need a lot of personnel, whether you're an electrician, you're doing the wiring, you're doing the fabrication, the plumbing, or the installation of airliners, commercial airliners. So I went to our secretary one morning, and I had a cup of coffee. I said, am I going to get laid off? And she says, no, Walt, you're not going to get laid off. So when I told the secretary, she was sitting like this is her desk. I says, here, you take the coffee. So I put it on her desk, and I left. I knew I was going to get laid off sooner or later, because you could see in the office there were less and less personnel, you know. So that's when I left Boeing.
So was this like after World War II when everything was calming down or something like that, or?
No, this is after the Korean War.
Oh.
The World War II was before the Korean War. First there was the First World War. Okay, to end all wars.
I know that.
Then there's the Second World War, then the Korean War, then the Vietnam War, and then Saddam, you know, the Iraq War, and now we're into the ISIS. So that's what it was.
So,
I left the Boeing company.
So did you talk to them about the like when they dropped the 2 atomic bombs on Japan? Did you talk about that?
No, I didn't.
You should. It'd be interesting.
No, I didn't talk about that. I just saw it on TV, because we didn't have a TV then until I got out of the Air Force. My parents didn't have a TV. They had a radio. And I said, we had breakfast. We had a table. We called it the breakfast nook. You know, here, like, people here, my family. And I said, Dad, I think I'll turn on the radio. I turned on the radio, and President Roosevelt was on. He said, excuse me, Pearl Harbor had just been attacked by a vicious enemy, the Japanese imperial country of Japanese. So he went to Congress, and he said, I have declared war on Japan for a vicious attack on Pearl Harbor. And then what happened, he says, they mobilized, you know, because all the islands eventually were taken over by Japanese. So what happened, you had to have persons, the Army, the Navy, the Coast Guard, the Air Force, Marines, to attack those islands and take them back. So we had, the women worked in the factories. For example, they worked in for the B-17 factory in Renton, Washington, because you know the B-17s won the war in Europe with other countries like Britain and France.
Kind of like this one, or hold on.
Senators and representatives, I have the distinguished honor of presenting the President of the United States.
That's what I heard.
Mr. Vice President, Mr. Speaker, members of the Senate, of the House of Representatives, Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live
In infamy.
in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire
Of
of
Japan.
The United States was at peace with that nation, and at the solicitation of Japan, was still in conversation with its government and its emperor,
Yohito.
looking toward the maintenance of peace in the Pacific. The attack yesterday on the Hawaiian Islands has caused severe damage to American naval and military forces. I regret to tell you that very many American lives have been lost. In addition, American ships have been reported torpedoed on the high seas between San Francisco and Honolulu.
Destroyed.
As Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy, I have directed that all measures be taken for our defense. But always will our whole nation remember the character of the onslaught against us.
Yeah. I have declared war on the Imperial Emperor of Japan.
No matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people in their righteous might will win through to absolute victory.
Will win in the end, right?
I bet it's interesting hearing this again, huh?
Yeah, because I don't remember all of it. But I know he said we will win in the end.
I believe that I interpret the will of the Congress
Yeah.
and of the people
People. I remember that part.
when I assert that we will not only defend ourselves to the uttermost, but will make it very certain
That.
that this form of
Treachery.
shall never again endanger us.
Exactly. After this, they had to defeat the Germans because the Italians went with Germany.
Hostilities exist. There is no blinking at the fact that our people, our territory, and our interests are in grave danger. With confidence in our armed forces, with the unbounding determination of our people, we will gain the inevitable triumph.
Or
So
victory.
help us God.
Yep, I remember that. I thought he said we will win and triumph. That's it. That's the
I
end of it.
ask that the Congress declare
War,
that since the unprovoked
attack.
and dastardly attack by Japan on Sunday, December 7th, 1941, a
State of war. See,
has existed between the United States and the Japanese
these
Empire.
empire. I remember that. When I was sitting in that breakfast nook,
Huh?
I remember all that. Oh, I can know the rest of them.
You
Yep.
don't know?
Yep.
Oh, well, that was interesting.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. Where did you get this at?
Well, I just found it on YouTube.
Oh, so that's all been pre-arranged on YouTube.
It's, well, I just searched it up on YouTube and there it was. Franklin Roosevelt's speech.
You know where I was? Like I said, this is the breakfast nook. Okay.
Yeah.
My parents and sister and brother sitting here, and I had the radio. Say that's the radio. I said, Dad, I think I'll switch on the radio. And I didn't know anything about Japan. I know that they defeated, was it China? And they figured, well, we wouldn't sell them the oil, the oil was for their planes and their whatever they had, because they were going to use it on us, and they got mad, right?
Right.
So they said, we'll plan, I don't know how many years we'll plan, and we'll do the same thing that when they defeated the Chinese, and we'll take all these islands and everything and stock them with Japanese soldiers, and we'll have a sneak attack going down, you know, before they got the and evading radar, and that's what they did. Exactly.
All right.
A sneak attack.
Thanks.
That's the only way they can do it. And I'll tell you one thing: they were not allowed anymore to have a military ground forces. And I don't know about Japanese Air Force. You know, they weren't allowed. But see now
They're not allowed to have ground forces, right?
Or no, I don't think an Air Force. But now the Chinese and the Japanese and the Vietnamese, I think in Russia, are getting into our like hacking, you know, and getting our confidential secrets.
Right.
You know, our secrets of our military, our naval, our Marine Corps, our Army, you know, trying to outdo us, you know.
Right.
Okay,
All right. Thanks.
yep.
Let me close my door. Real quick. So that was really interesting. I hope you guys enjoyed that, because I did, and this video is definitely going to be watched back again and again by me, and it's going to be awesome. But anyways, guys, I'm going to end the vlog here, alright? Alright. I'm glad that I got my uncle to share the information with you. I love hearing his stories. I really do. Alright. This is Zach, out.